Kondaa is Walibi Belgium's mega coaster. It opened in 2021, kind of as that next generation of Intamin mega coaster. It stands 164 feet tall, max speed 70 miles per hour, packing in a ton of airtime hills. It's one of less than 10 mega coasters by Intamin located around the world, and one of only a couple that sit between that 100 and 200 foot mark. I know when the park contacted Intamin about this, they were looking to do a plussed version, essentially, of Goliath at Walibi Holland. That was a mega coaster that they built in 2002, and prior to this, Walibi Belgium didn't really have that standout roller coaster. So this was a much needed addition for them, and man, is it a fantastic ride. So in this review, I'm going to be going through everything that you can expect when you go out there to ride this thing. We'll talk about the different elements, theming, a little bit of everything. So as usual, let's talk about that arrival experience. So Kondaa is located all the way in the back of the park, and it has its own dedicated plaza. And this looks great. I mean, presentation is awesome. It has this like jungly vibe to it. Like the station building kind of reminds me of like ruins or a temple or shrine to this like snake god. You see that massive snake head out there. In the plaza, you have this like big skeleton out front. You know what it almost reminds me of are the skull crawlers from that Kong Skull Island movie. Definitely giving me vibes like that. Most of the queue is outside. Actually, at one point, it goes like right underneath the first drop, which is really cool. But most of this ride, you can't really get close to. It kind of goes far out there, and from a lot of the park, the ride is covered by trees. The main thing you see from that plaza is the lift, drop, and first airtime hill. When you get up to the station, though, you'll see your trains, which each hold 24 passengers, 2 across seating. I love the music they play when the trains dispatch. There's lots of drums, and it gets you like totally pumped up to ride. It's actually a pretty well-themed station. I really like the lighting, too. Very atmospheric. I know when we went to Walibi Belgium, Kondaa had quite a bit of a line. Actually, one thing that we really took advantage of while we were there is the single rider line. Yes, they have one for Kondaa. Be sure to use it. As long as you don't mind possibly taking like a middle row, you can't really choose your seat. You can get like tons of laps in on Kondaa. I rode it probably like 7 or 8 times, sat all over the train. Really got a good feel for it. But these seats are super comfortable, makes you feel very free and open. I know this train setup also exists on a lot of their multi-launch coasters. Like if you've done Pantheon, it feels the exact same. So as you roll out of the station, you start climbing up your lift hill. When you look out to the right, you'll be able to see the entire layout out before you. And you slowly start to crest over your first drop. And this thing throws you down at an 80-degree angle, so almost vertical, and it's got a twist to the right. For those of you who've ridden Expedition G-Force, you're probably very familiar with that sensation that you're going to get going over the top. In the back, you just get whipped to the side. It pulls you through like crazy. Crazier than Expedition G-Force. That coaster opened in 2001, so here we are 20 years later. They've really perfected that element. So if that's your favorite part of Expedition G-Force, I guarantee you're going to like Kondaa better, because this layout just like destroys Expedition G-Forces in just about every way. They're a lot more creative with the elements. This first airtime hill is very traditional, but it is insane. There's so much ejector airtime going over this element. It has a lot of that wow factor. And then instead of having a traditional like bank turn to the right, on Kondaa, they flip you outward. And this is very powerful and it is packed with airtime. And you go through this with a great pace, way better than Pantheon's outer bank. I really wish that coaster had an outer bank like Kondaa. In my opinion, Pantheon's is too drawn out and it's kind of slow as it moves through it. This was not. So those right there are your first 3 elements on Kondaa. It also happens to be my favorite section of the ride. Not saying the rest of it is bad, but that consecutive motion of going through that crazy drop, first airtime hill and outer bank is just perfection. Unfortunately, the element that comes right after is probably the most underwhelming moment of Kondaa. And that is, unfortunately, the signature element on the ride. Walibi Belgium wanted something unique on Kondaa, something you can't find anywhere else. And so they went with a non-inverting cobra roll. And I know the people at Intamin struggled with this one. A lot of different factors at play to get this element right. And so I don't necessarily fault them for it because it hasn't really been done before. But to me, I just didn't care for it at all. It felt very lackluster. There wasn't really any whip to it, and there wasn't a lot of speed either. It felt very controlled. Like I expected this moment to feel something like you'd find on Maverick, but it's not. I think if it had a bit more speed through it, then that would definitely help. Like some of these transitions look like it would throw you to the side. So maybe if you just took it with more momentum than it would, but I don't know, it's just a shame. I was really expecting to be wowed by this part, and I just wasn't. So following that roll, we go back into those really like awesome moments on Kondaa. There's a speed hill that you're gonna fly through. This part is awesome. Then you turn to right underneath the outer bank. You kind of stall out there on the side. You rotate back over to the left. Now you're underneath the non-inverting cobra roll, banking to the side. It's really good. I just wish that one bank was a little bit whippier. I feel like that could have been done with a bit more aggression. Like it's just hard when you have the moment like the first drop that sets it up like this is gonna be a really whippy ride. And then you have a moment like the non-inverting cobra roll role in this, where it just doesn't quite throw you like those other parts. But from here we go into a really creative ending. So they wanted to do a bunch of bunny hills as the finale, but they made them interesting. It's not all just straight traditional hills. So first you start to bank to the right and then you flip to the left in this crazy like twisted double down. So you're just slightly banked outward to the right, and then as you're stepping down, you bank to the left. It is bizarre. I truly don't feel like we've seen that element anywhere else. The only thing I can really think to compare it to is a trick track double up on, like, let's say Storm Chaser or Twisted Timbers, but it feels completely different, but it's that sort of same idea. Then we have a traditional hill, and then this is very snake-like right here. Like, in a way, this element almost feels like theming, because you twist to the left, then to the right, bank sharply to the left, twist back to the right, and then we have two very small bunny hills, and then your last hop up into the brake run is just bank slightly to the left, and that's when you slam to a stop. That last little bunny hop is the only one that I'm just not 100% sure how I feel about it. Like, I almost feel like it should have just been a normal hill like the two before it. But that whole end stretch is just really cool. I love how low to the ground they are. I think it just really catches you off guard. It's a great finale to the coaster, but it is kind of fun to think about what the finale for this ride could have looked like. Originally, the folks at Intamin were going back and forth between this finale and a Mosasaurus roll into the brake run, like that crazy moment on Velocicoaster. Personally, I think it would have been sick if we had both, but I also understand that based off of the land they had to work with, they sort of had to pick one or the other. This finale makes a lot more sense with the ride. You know, you don't go upside down at any other part. So it would be a little strange if there was just one inversion quickly there at the end. So I'm not mad about it, but it's kind of fun to think about this ride in an alternate universe where that exists. So overall, for Kondaa, I recommend riding in the back row if you can. I believe that each element on the ride hits better in the back, with the exception of the non-inverting cobra roll. I think that's better in the front. You just get a little bit more whip, not a lot. But I mean, it's just a very fun coaster. I think they did a great job on it. I mean, it's by far the best ride at Walibi Belgium. I feel like between this and Ride to Happiness, it also really put Belgium on the map for roller coasters. Like, this and Ride to Happiness opened in the same year. That's an incredible 1-2 punch. I think this ride is also a great example of just how Intamin has progressed over the years. Like, this is a plus version of Expedition G-Force in just about every way. They succeeded in their goal with doing a better Goliath at Walibi Holland, but it also gets me thinking about some of Intamin's like original mega coasters, like Superman at Six Flags New England or Thunder Dolphin at Tokyo Dome City. How much better those rides would be if they incorporate some of those moments that Kondaa does. Regardless, I think this ride is proof that Intamin's future is definitely bright, at least in this department. I hope that we see a lot more rides out there like this. I know they take up a lot of land and can be kind of expensive, but this was just super cool, and it seemed like the public responded really well to it too, not just the coaster enthusiasts. So for Kondaa's final score, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. The only reason it's not a perfect score is mainly just because that non-inverting cobra roll. I think it's cool they tried something new, but at the end of the day, I think there's definitely like another element that they could have picked that would have made the pacing a bit more consistent, because even as I rode Kondaa a bit more, I was hoping that element would grow on me, and it just really didn't. But it's okay, because even with that one part not being what it could, I still loved the ride and absolutely recommend it. So that just shows how good everything else is. So let me know down in the comments below if you've ridden Kondaa at Walibi Belgium, if you agree with the points I brought up. If you disagree, let me know why down below. And if you're new to the channel, I encourage you to check out the Coaster Reviews playlist that is filled with roller coasters from all around the world in alphabetical order. And also encourage you to check out the new Coaster Studios Patreon that we just launched. We're bringing forward a bunch of awesome brand new bonus content for you guys. So if you want more, head to patreon.com/coasterstudios. And we really appreciate your support. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.